we'll get started now. Okay. And boy, what a great crowd. This is really nice to see. And a great day for it. So everyone knows David Greenwood, our town and village historian. And everyone has probably utilized the tribute gardens at one point or another. So it's really wonderful to have a talk on it, I think. I just wanted to mention that I have membership cards with me today. And I have more program cards for the summer series that we have. And next 2 weeks from now is, let's see, it's July 30th, is the Distinguished Spirits of Nine Partners Burial Ground. So that should be fun. And also I'm about to send out an email inviting everyone to the puppy show. You know, we had the tea at Thorndale, Sandinona Harehounds. And now the puppy show is July 31st. Yes, and the farmer's market next Saturday already, the 23rd, is the farmer's market, and we need people to fill in on time slots to just greet the public, and that's it.
Could I just add that for the Sandinona thing, after the puppy show, there is a cookout, or you can eat if you want to, but you'd have to send it. You'd have to pay like it's
yes, yep, and that's all. It's $20 ahead of time if you reserve ahead, or $25 at the door, and otherwise it's free. But the barbecue is $25
to eat. Yes.
Children are free. Bring grandchildren. She loves to have children up there. Okay, thank you.
Where do you find the time slot for next?
Yes. Robert, no, not on the website. Robert sent an email to the board, I believe, so Ashley should have something on there. Okay, good. David, I think we're ready.
Okay, thank you. And, thank you all for coming, and this will be brief, but the reason we're meeting here is because this is in essence what the tribute garden is all about. When you think about it, it was created in 1919, or suggested in 1919, to commemorate all those souls as a living tribute to the future. And at the time, in the newspapers of the day, they said, oh, kids aren't going to come here. No one's going to walk up to the top of the hill for it. And look around you. It has, right from the beginning, been a celebration for all generations. Yesterday we were here, and I noticed that there were young couples, there were senior citizens, there were mothers with children, there were just about every kind of combination you could imagine, and they were all celebrating it. The park itself, though, we have to attribute much of the beauty of the park to one person, and who is it?
Matt Hurst.
Matt Hurst. And Matt is the single-handed man responsible for the way it looks.
Yes.
And when you see the park, you think, how many people does it take to maintain it? Basically one. And on occasion, if he needs extra hands, his brother and others will come and help. But look at it. It's a carpet. It's absolutely glorious. Now, one of the things about the park that is so special, when it was created as to commemorate those soldiers in World War I, was that every tree is dedicated to an individual. And you'll see in a few minutes the plaque that was created in 1919 that lists the names of all the soldiers and then the trees that are associated with them. So every tree is identified by an individual. And that may seem obvious for anyone who knows the park, but what we have had happen over the years is individuals have moved away, died, and their descendants have come back, and some of the trees have been replanted by descendants of the people who had the trees that were here. So the evolution of the park is continuing, and it really is a living tribute. One of the things I love about the park is, look at the children. That's what the celebration is. And right from the beginning, children have found this as a destination. The other component for it that's so interesting is, if you think of the Catholic Church and the school, the road that we share is actually something where the Catholic Church helped to coordinate the size of the property. As I said, 6 to 8 acres. The original parcel was not really parallel to the main roads for it. So adjusting it with the Catholic Church and the donation of some of the footage to make it square is pretty amazing. And over the years, the information that has appeared in the roundtable and the discussions, pretty amazing. There's really one person, though, that we have to associate with the park, and that's Mrs. Thorne, because she had the vision and wanted very much to have it as a living document, and that's what the park is all about. So I have a question for all of you. How many of you came here as children? 1, 2, 3. So 3 of you. For some of you, how many of you, is this the first time you've been in the park? First time. Okay, so you've all been here before, and that's wonderful. So my quest for you is invite other people when they come to visit you to bring them up to the park so that they can see it, because it is such a destination. And to see the children playing, I mean, that's a celebration, absolutely. Now, yes, Allison?
I don't want to interrupt. I don't know if this is
please.
a good place to do it, but I wanted to share, and it has to do with Mrs. Thorne. The Millbrook Garden Club, thanks to me, gave us as a gift the early Millbrook Garden Club minutes that we have in the archives now, Millbrook Archives. And in 1923, there's this one paragraph that's in the minutes. It says, Mrs. Thorne gave an account of some of the fall planting she was doing in the tribute garden, very real labor, and made us realize how much she herself was giving to the work. Through the advice of Mr. Durant, I don't know who Mr. Durant would have been, if he was a gardener or not, without whose help it could not be intelligently or practically done, and through the large amount of trees and shrubs, etc., which she herself purchased. And it goes on. They had a gardener. She then told us that Mr. Thorne had given us a house in the village as a home for our gardener, which is in need of repair, but the man would earn $100 a month and pay $10 in rent for the home a month. So anyway, and it goes on, and it's fascinating reading these minutes. I love what comes out of these minutes. But it just anchors, I think, anchors Mrs. Thorne to the tribute gardens, and in fact she was here. It wasn't a separate, like, well, let's have that done.
Yes.
And I don't know if you ever found it in the minutes yet, but where that mortar came from,
because it's one of the only ones in the United States that's like that. And somebody from the state of Washington happened to see it, and they got a hold of us trying to figure out where it came from, and we had to go back, and you and I'm not sure who, I can't, Jim?
Jim, yeah.
We're trying to research the whole thing, but I know that I was looking too to figure out how we got it and where it came from. But it was early, and it came from Germany, from the war, or France. France.
It was used in France. The plaque is on the back of it.
Yeah.
France.
So I don't have an answer to it. We never came down to the bottom of that. If anyone has any information, that would be great. But what I did find was that I've forgotten his name now because I'm not prepared for that, but it could have been Talmadge, or is that another revolutionary guy? Talmadge. Someone who grew up on Chestnut Ridge Road, out that way, and then I think whose brother ended up working at Thorndale for his life. He was in politics. He went to Washington, and he was, an aide or something in politics, and he's the one who supposedly is connected with that, who brought that here. But we can't find the connection. We're hoping that it would be in the minutes. For the Garden Club.
How they got it.
Yes, but haven't found that
Would
yet.
you ask anybody at VFW? Did I know?
I don't know. I don't know.
don't know if they have the, I don't know.
I wonder if they would have any.
The
Well, they would
reality
be-
is everyone takes it for granted. And it's when you start asking questions, or how did it get here? Or what estate had it? Or who donated it? Those are the things that at the time people just took for granted, but they've been lost. And that's where the plaque is so important. When you consider, and we'll walk over there so you can see the plaque, but the other concern or interest is, if you look at Franklin Avenue, and the access for it with the cannon is absolutely lined up with that main street. And the reality is that the street, it's not an accident that happened. It's on purpose. And the other component is, keep in mind that what we think of as a village green was a railroad track. So at the far end near the firehouse is where the station was. So cars, people would come up to visit the area, get off at the firehouse, and then walk up to see the streets and the angles for it. And the layout of the village is so important. So Franklin Merritt, can you guess the name of the person who laid the streets out? Franklin Merritt. And he was the one who coordinated and helped set up the park itself. So it's a celebration of the community, and for generations it's been used. So let's walk over to the memorial where you can see the names that are listed. And any other comments or insights while we're here? Okay, let's walk and enjoy. Oh, and the other thing is, notice you've got the gravel paths, but you also have the cement concrete. And that's so that people in wheelchairs and so on can actually come and enjoy the park as well. So it's really multi-purpose, and the vision of the park was to celebrate everyone who could come. And that really is. And just seeing the children doing what they're doing, I mean, that's a celebration itself. So let's walk over to this area.
Richard off. Oh, I made it. No, don't get off. Oh, yeah. Did he do something? Yeah. Look on our feet. I'm gonna do it. I made blue crayons.
Things kids think of.
I'm gonna try something you can. What? Never give up with Father. We gotta put her on the slide. Squirtle. Owie. What? Oops, I just broke it again on accident. Okay. Yay! This is great! Dad did a good job! It's a blossom! It turned into Play-Doh! Oh wait! You know what to do?
And the other element is the eagle. And everyone takes that for granted, but in point of fact, that eagle is a copy of one that was at the Thorne Estate in New York City, at the top of their first building. And when the park was created, Mrs. Thorne is the one who said, "Now I know what to do with that bird." So it ended up being incorporated into this monument because of that association.
And I would just urge people to come closer and really take a look at the diagram. 165 trees, by the way.
Sure. Can I interrupt? Please do.
Town of Washington.
I was going to say my mother, as a very young girl, planted tree 74, which is this one right here for Pascual Papa, who was in World War I. And I remember her telling me as a young girl, many young girls from the village were dressed in white at this very special ceremony for planting the trees, whatever day that was. So I always think of my mother and tree 74 because she did plant.
Yeah, I took a picture of this one right here.
Yeah, it's this one right there. Yeah.
Are they all standing next to a tree?
And the arborist here at the road was saying, how are you? Yeah.
These are made.
It says it's from Morgan Wayne.
Oh, is there one?
Yeah, but down. It's not 374.
Farther down. Oh, interesting.
It says it's next to Morgan Wayne.
Oh, it's 71.
Oh, 71. Oh, I said 74.
I probably did. She planted 71,
Oh,
which is that tree right there.
71. So I found some. Oh, there.
And I know some of you have associations with it.
Yeah.
So here's a special insight about the particular monument, please.
Well, my father graduated from the Thorne Building in 1917, went to Syracuse University, got in the ROTC program, got a uniform, and I guess the war ended, and his name is on here, and he had a tree.
Okay.
Oh.
Wonderful associations.
What's your name? What's your last name?
Boyce.
I saw Leland Van Ness Boyce.
Number
I saw that
83.
name.
So which one did
I think that was somebody.
It was one of these here.
Yeah, 71. It's that one right there. Yeah. Because we're going south.
Which one?
It's this one. It's that
It
one.
was in that row.
Yeah, it's the first one.
And once the park was created,
How do you know?
Because we're going this way.
No, how do you know it was 74?
No, it's 71. I made a mistake. It's 71. It's Pascual Papa
Yeah.
who died. It's 71.
You remember that for sure?
For positive.
Because I took a picture of her next to it and then Mom deleted the picture.
The history. Now, I find it fun to explore where the plaques are, because you've got the two plaques at the cannon. The one facing the playground, which says the Court of Honor dedicated to the children of our village. And then on the other side of the cannon, facing the flag, it says, used in action at San Miguel Offensive by 1st Battalion French Artillery, September 12, 1918, and at Bois-le-Préfet and Argonne Offensive, September 26, 1918. Then, of course, you've got this plaque here, which says, these trees were planted on October 23, 1920, by the families of the soldiers and sailors who went from the town of Washington, Dutchess County, New York, to fight for their country in the World War. The World War. Later we will see reference to World War II, but at the time it was assumed it was the World War, the one and only, and would not be another. My favorites are the hidden ones, underneath the bridge. And on one side it's a history, on the other side it's a heritage. And the history reads, presented to Mrs. Oh, I'm sorry, this is the one that's on the inside of the entrance pillars. Presented to Mrs. Oakley Thorne by the residents of the village of Millbrook, New York, in appreciation of her untiring efforts and work in making the tribute garden the beautiful memorial it is today. Then under the bridge, a history. The tribute garden was planned and landscaped by the Millbrook Garden Club, and in 1920 was dedicated as a tribute to our forces of World War I. That gives us a clue as to when this plaque was done. It's now referred to as World War I. At the request of the Garden Club, it was taken over in 1943 by the Tribute Garden Incorporated. Through this organization, Oakley Thorne created a foundation for its support and subsequently added land for the Veterans Green, which is where the railroad used to go through. In 1948, the green was constructed, planted, and dedicated as a tribute to our forces of World War II. And then another memorial, which is, as you're going out, to your right, outside the gates, is to the memory of those who fought in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. And the lighting, the foliage was too much. I couldn't read the heritage that's on the other side of the bridge. So you're going to have to come back when there's not so many plantings, not so much growth. In the winter time, you can see it very well. So I'll leave that one for you to explore. And that at the entrance itself, and I was talking with Lee Cornell about this earlier, it says, "This garden was created by the Millbrook Garden Club and planted with trees, shrubs, and flowers native to our country. It is dedicated as a tribute and memorial to the soldiers and sailors who went from the town of Washington to the World War 1917-1918. How impressive is that? We are only now catching up with native plantings. And at the time, this garden, in the planting 1918, 1919, 1920, the garden was populated with native plants and shrubs and flowers. And I think that's amazing. So.
Well, you know, back when I was a kid, but underneath that bridge was a pool, and it had a concrete walk around. But unfortunately, they had to get rid of it because everybody would throw their garbage in it.
Ah.
And that's why Matt made up the new waterfalls and the plantings and all that. Yeah, they had to get rid of that pool, but you could use one of the bridge and walk around this pool.
So that's why it's so hard to see those two plaques right now.
Right, and then he had to put, because I caught the kids in there, they would climb the fence, went into the waterfalls, and I said, "Get out of there. I'm just getting something. Get out of there." So now he's had to put fence inside the other fence, you know, wire fencing around the...
But did so successfully and managed to maintain it.
So any other insights or comments, any experiences, personal experiences that you'd like to share with the group?
Well, down where the gazebo is, there used to be I guess it was like a lily pond or something. I don't know if you remember that.
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, and there were, it's still a wet land there, but it was definitely, it was gardened as a lily pond. So
well, of course, back here in the corner,
yeah, there was a pool. There was a pool for the kids. Yeah. Wonderful memories. Any other insights or comments? Well, again, if you're walking down, do take the time to stroll the pathways down and look to the signs that are about in the park itself. But it's such a celebration. One of the things that we love to do, Nan and I are very much involved with the International Rotary Exchange Program. So every year we have a student from a different country coming here. And one of our students from Millbrook will go to the other country. We've done that for many, many years. But bringing them to the park to see it, they are so impressed. When you think of this as we take it for granted, and yet for most of the international students who come, they may have parks, but this one celebrates the youth. So it's not just a veneration or visitation, it's an opportunity to see children actually playing and being a part of it. And that's what makes it so special.
And again, I think the whole concept of not just building a statue of a dodo, but creating a park to say, this is what they were fighting for. Democracy and freedom for our children to grow up happy and secure. It's an amazing testament to the vision that Mrs. Thorne and the Garden Club
that we all have collectively. How many of you have relatives who fought in World War I that were still alive when you were a child to be able to share those stories? Many of us did that and took it for granted. My uncle, my grandfather's brother actually, was a veterinarian, And he ended up going off to France because vets were so important. Why?
Horses over there?
Because the horses were the main bulk of information and for transportation. Everyone knew the horses. And one of the jobs he had was, if the horse was wounded, guess what they would do? Eat the horse. Because you recycle all of the process for it. And today we think, whoa, how could you do that? But the reality is every day is a blessing. And those horses gave not only their strength, but their actual flesh to help those soldiers. And in many instances, those stories are the ones that have come down that we remember today. So the experience of the next time we have a celebration in a parade, don't just think of the doughboys, but think of all the support network that made those soldiers function and popular and return with their stories. It really is very special. Any other comments and insights?
You know the walkways, were they planned out by the garden club, or did they have a landscape architect do that?
And one of the years ago when I first did the tour here, there are names associated with the layout and how they were set up. And I thought I had that card, and I couldn't find it this morning, so forgive
Let
me.
Allison read the minutes and she can tell us next time.
And it just came back to me, the person, I did find in the minutes about the mortar being accepted, and it had the person's name who they thanked for getting it here, but no other connection, like, you know, its origins or purpose in having it or anything. So it is in the Garden Club minutes, it is, and now we have to go back and look and see if it's like 1920 or when it was.
David, can I mention my October 20th?
Please, yes.
October 20th, I'm going to speak to the Millbrook Historical Society about Helen S. Thorne, and the title of my talk is Visionary Woman. So not only about the Millbrook Garden Club, but also the Garden Club of America, and the impact that she had on our nation with saving the redwood groves in California. So that's just a little teaser. Please come on October 20th.
Any other questions or comments or insights?